Hello, everyone, and welcome to the first episode of the spring semester of Beneath the Surface. I am here with a high school academic All-American, an All-Ohio honorable mention, first team All-Region 2, and position player of the year for the region, Kevin O'Donnell, the goalie for the men's lacrosse team. Kevin, welcome to Beneath the Surface.
Thanks for having me.
I am Michael Gross, and let's get right into it. Kevin, let's start with your career prior to Oswego State. You got into lacrosse at a young age, but what really helped you become engulfed in lacrosse when you were younger?
Actually, I started playing lacrosse when I was in eighth grade. I was a baseball player when I was younger. I was planning on playing baseball in high school, and then I played hockey as well. So I had that background, and having that hockey background with lacrosse is beneficial to second it on.
So talk to me about that transition process, going from, I guess, mostly baseball to now lacrosse.
Oh yeah. So when I was in eighth grade, I decided to play both. So I played travel baseball as well as travel lacrosse and school lacrosse. So I was doing 7 days a week of everything. It was fun though. I loved it. I loved it then. And then once I got to ninth grade, I decided that I wanted to play lacrosse. I was much better than I thought, and anybody thought that I was going to be. So I decided to stick with it and follow the journey. And then ended up getting my first start, the first game of the season for varsity my freshman year of lacrosse. So, and then it took off from there. So,
Did your parents have any impact on that decision, changing from baseball to lacrosse, or was that really just more of a you decision?
the start was he didn't want to pay my dad didn't want to pay for the equipment to have to play lacrosse. So the eighth grade school ended up giving me a lot of the equipment for free, and that's how they ended up getting me to play, and that's how it started. So once I made, my dad was a baseball guy. He enjoyed baseball more at the time. Now I think he enjoys lacrosse a little bit more, but he grew up with baseball and that was his sport. So that's what he thought. He thought I was going to follow with that, but here we are.
So, I mean, after that transition that went from baseball to lacrosse, you must have had some sort of mentor, right? Who was that mentor that you had?
Well, that's tough. There were a few guys, primarily. I would say one being his name is Coach Cluth. He was my middle school coach, as well as once I made that next step, Jason Griffith was a great coach that I had my freshman year. He played goalie at Ohio State and Delaware as well. So he had experience in that realm of teaching me, to getting me to that next step. And then my sophomore year, we were lucky to get a new coach as well, named Brian Lally, who coached at Canisius. So, and he also played at Ohio State, but he was a midfielder, but he had a lot of background um, throughout the community, or around the community, and just in the lacrosse world. And he was very beneficial with Brian Lally was very, very beneficial with recruiting as well for me. So
Who who do you think you learned the most from out of, I guess, the three of them and going into
uh,
your college career?
I would have to say Brian Lally, just because he was my coach for 3 years. He was my high school coach my sophomore, junior, and senior year, and he kind of set me up for the recruiting stage and kind of what the standard was for playing college lacrosse, and set me up with that, and gave me that guidance for me to basically fill in the rest of the gaps for my game.
So he was your coach at St. Edward in
Correct.
Ohio there?
Correct. He was our
Okay.
head coach. Yes.
And so you played for St. Edward, I
St.
believe it
Edward.
is,
Yeah,
right?
St.
Yeah,
Edward. Yeah, yeah.
in Lakewood, Ohio. Talk to us about your experience playing for them. I know you mentioned your coach there, but talk to us about your experience and getting to know the guys on the team and really just improving and becoming the lacrosse player and the goalie that you are now.
Oh, it was awesome. So I was able to. So my freshman year, it's an all guys school, so you got a lot of camaraderie on the team and stuff. So, a lot of the team was very close. We were a close knit group of guys. So basically, I would say our freshman year, the leadership aspect really started for me and kicked in for me my sophomore year, when I started every single game for my sophomore year, and then junior year and senior year. So but that sophomore year step was the big turning point in making the next step, and then being able to be a captain for my senior year. I would say that we set up the culture that our school has now for lacrosse. We were a pretty good lacrosse school, but we weren't a great lacrosse school. And now our high school is making that next step as a program, and made that next step after the culture that we left with them. So we're hoping to do the same thing here at Oswego as well, which I think we are on the best direction.
Yeah, and you mentioned that from a younger age as a sophomore, you sort of were thrown into a small leadership role that only grew over time once you got to senior year. Talk to me about that leadership role that you had as a sophomore and how you really grew into becoming a leader your senior year.
Big thing I noticed my sophomore year with regard to the leadership was learning the defense, which was the hardest thing my freshman year. After only playing 2 years of lacrosse, there's a lot of questions that you have when you go to a new school. A lot of different high schools had different slide packages. They played different zones, so there was a lot to learn for me just with the new team, as well as also start playing a new game, playing a new sport. So that's where it became difficult for me at first, where I really started to hit the internet and learn. I tried to learn everything I could about how defenses are run, proper power packages, what works, what doesn't, where you can slide from. And this is my sophomore year. That it was taking that big step, and then my junior year was kind of honing in those skills, and senior year was putting together the complete package.
Did you learn most of them from like YouTube, or is there a
Oh,
specific
you can learn a
site?
lot more from
Yes.
YouTube than you think. Learned a lot. I actually did learn a lot. I actually did learn a lot from YouTube. There's a lot of good little like like coaches that currently coach in college. They'll go through how other defenses are ran in college. So you kind of get that, you get an advanced look, a more like step back look, which is kind of what high schools run. But a lot of it is similar. A lot of it is the
Okay.
same.
Yeah, and so you must have learned a lot in your high school years, but what is it that you learned in your high school years that you took with you to the college level?
Um, I would say the biggest thing for me was knowing how to lead a team, and I learned that through being a captain in high school, and that was something I didn't really learn until I was a captain either. So, and I knew once I came to Oswego, I knew when I was starting my freshman year, I knew I already had to take. I knew I couldn't sit back. I knew I needed to take that next step and become a leader on the team based on what my role would be the next 4 years. So yeah, that would be it.
And you were pretty comfortable with Coach Bezek and him. Did he ever say to you in the recruiting process that you would eventually become a leader on this team, or did he just kind of like know that you had that leadership quality and that it would just happen over time?
I think Bezic knew, and we talked my freshman sophomore year about like what he wanted and his expectations as a leader, and especially at that position. So he knew that I have a lot of the communication skills, like with the guys and with the defense, where I'm always very loud in the net. So the communication aspect and knowing where guys need to be, but isn't the problem, which it can be a problem for a lot of coaches if goalies don't talk. But no, I would say he was pretty clear on his expectations, and um, hopefully I've been exceeding them.
Well, we will talk more about your Oswego State career after this short break. You're watching Beneath the Surface on WTOP 10. Welcome back to Beneath the Surface here on WTOP 10 and 88.9 WNYO, the Laker Radio Network. Once again, I'm here with Kevin O'Donnell, and we just went and talked about your career prior to Oswego State. And now let's dive into your career as a Laker. You seem to adjust quite well to the college level. What did you attribute to finding success right out of the gate once you got here?
I would say high school and summer competition, and in summer competition especially. I played for a strong summer team, so I've seen the level of shots that have been had from kids. I saw kids from the D1 level, and you see a lot of that throughout the summer. So coming here, the only difference, and you see a lot of very talented players in high school as well. But the main and the biggest difference is how well consistently can every single person on the team shoot, as well as like the spots that they could shoot from, and how they use screens and shoot around defenders. And it's the little things, stick angles, and how guys finish inside that really make high school lacrosse different from college lacrosse.
So the caliber was sort of in the middle, the caliber of the summer lacrosse sort of in the middle between high school and college.
Yes, I would say in the middle, because the everybody was younger at the time. But once you get to that 18, 19, 20 year old, the 20-year-old, people start to get bigger and everybody's a little bit stronger, and that's all around the board as well. So sometimes that 17, 18 age mark is a little bit, there people are smaller as well.
So you talk about facing harder shot power. What else did you learn from that summer development program that team that you brought to Oswego?
Making sure you're as fundamentally and as consistent as possible. And the consistency in your game starts from the fundamentals, because if you're not, and you'll notice if you're not following your fundamentals in goal, the consistency is all over the place. It starts with your fundamentals.
Well, you talk about fundamentals and consistency, and right out of the gate, you won SUNYAC Rookie of the Year. How did it feel to be sort of recognized as not only a young star on the team, but just in the entire conference?
It felt great. Obviously, we had a lot of talented players that year as well. Defensively, we had Adam Burlew, who was one of the best defensive middies I've ever played with, probably the best. He was a hard worker, and also we had David Ranko as well, and so we had a lot of people around me. Then I realized, like, that next season when we didn't have them, it was a little bit difficult, a little bit more difficult. But I can tell that our defensive middies that we have now, who have grown into that spot from sophomore year, junior year, senior year, and on, they're taking on those roles, and they're filling in those gaps that we were missing 4 years ago, which is why I think right now we have the best team.
Yeah, and you talk about how you have the best team right now, and you carry that success that you had from your rookie year all the way up until the last time you played, which is in 2019, where you had another successful season. What was the highlight of that last full season that you had?
Um, it was that's a tough go. I would have to say when we were beating Cortland 6-1 in the SUNYAC playoff game, that feeling, and being our 5 or 6-1, we were up, and then that feeling at the moment in time was the best feeling that I've had in college lacrosse. And obviously we ended up losing that feeling, but I know a lot of the guys in the team. When we had a similar loss to them the year prior, a very close loss, and the year before in overtime. So it's tough because we're right there, but we're just not getting the deal done. And it's only a matter of time before we step up. And I think that's this time.
Can you walk us through what that emotion feels like going into some sort of playoff game like that, especially against a rival like Cortland? Just walk us through the feelings and the emotions that you were going through.
Second to none, I can tell you that. To start off, we had I remember I had 6 or 7 straight saves to start the game. So the team was riding high in that, and we were scoring every single shot we took. So when that's happening, every single moment, once you make that 4 to 5 jump and that 5 to 6 jump, every single moment, every little moment, every turnover that you have for your team is that much more impactful in the long term of the game as well. So it's all about maintaining that energy throughout the game, or as long as you can before the other team takes that chop back at you, which eventually they will. But it's about how fast you get that chop right back at them as well. So
Yeah, and you talk about maintaining energy, and it's very hard to maintain energy, especially when you get a season taken away from you, right? And so last year, the pandemic ended the season just a few weeks in. And from a player's perspective, what was it like to go from working towards that goal of being the best team in the SUNYAC and just improving in general, and then being told that you have to stop, that you have to go home, that you're not allowed to play lacrosse anymore? What was that feeling like?
it was very tough for myself, and I was thinking about at the time how tough it was on the seniors when you think you're just going into your 4th game, and everything at that time happened very quick too. So they thought they were going into their 4th game of the season, and we had a practice the day after that, and then before then season was gone. So it was very tough, for me to deal with. But knowing the tougher part was adapting to this season with after not playing consistently like we would, not being able to play fall ball as well, and it was tough getting up to the field too to shoot because of COVID rules. But yeah, I would say the hardest part was getting our bodies back to full form and making sure that injuries aren't occurring, which is something that Coach Bezic and Kevin Joyce, our trainer, have both been doing a great job of.
Yeah, and I obviously, I guess you guys feel like you've almost sort of been robbed of a year of your college experience, not just lacrosse, but just college in general. But you had a long off season, right? Mostly you were only allowed to work out individually or maybe in small groups toward the end of that extended and probably unwanted off season, especially because you guys didn't get to play. But talk about what you guys did to maintain team chemistry and stay in shape throughout the whole pandemic now that you're ready to play again.
So throughout the fall, it was very difficult. We would have to do if we couldn't do much. We couldn't do anything really with the team. We would try to get small groups together within our houses or people that live together to go do runs wherever we could. But it was tough. It was very difficult in the fall. But once we got back to the spring, we started slow by doing small 3 or 4 person runs, and then we've been getting back into everything, um, we've been able to go with larger groups. And then we started actually on the first week of practice when we came back, we were doing split team, or we were doing split by 4 teams. So there were 4 groups within the team, about like a very small number of guys in the field house, just because of the COVID rules in Romney. But I think we've done a great job at coming back from everything that we've had to overcome, and I'm proud of our team as well.
And I mean, we're proud of you guys too, and we're happy that you guys are, getting back to lacrosse. And we're going to talk about this upcoming season, as well as maybe your future after school. Right after this short break, you're watching Beneath the Surface on WTOP 10 and simulcasting on 88.9 WNYO, the Laker Radio Network. Welcome back to Beneath the Surface. Once again, here with Kevin O'Donnell. We've talked about your career prior to Oswego State, and now we've talked about your Oswego State career. Let's talk about lacrosse this season and some of the experiences you've gained over time. But I also want to talk about what your future sort of looks like after school. Everybody forgets that these are student athletes, right? That you're a student athlete. Student always comes before the athlete, and it's so important in that aspect of things. But I want to ask you, what's your area of study? What are you studying here?
Currently I am a business administration major, but in a biology minor actually. But my original plan, I was a biology major and an economics minor to begin with. I decided to switch. My plan is still to continue on and my plan is to go to medical school. I'm currently applying 2 schools. I'm taking a gap year between my final year and my application year to go. Um, Originally, I was going to do an ETA, teach English in another country. I did a program my sophomore year my freshman to sophomore year over the summer with kids across the world, which was started by Elliot Couch. He's an Oswego alumni here, and he played lacrosse as well. The program travels to Malaysia and Kenya in the summer. So I was able to go to Malaysia going through my freshman to sophomore year, which really interested me in teaching English in another country, especially and even if starting a lacrosse program in that school, which is what he did. And lacrosse in Malaysia has grown, and especially in that area in Sabah, the state of Sabah, and it's only going to keep growing. So, which is awesome, and I want to be a part of the growing it in another country as well.
That's absolutely incredible. Where did you hear of this program to begin with, and how did you? And just where did you hear the program to begin with?
Actually, so at our alumni dinner, at our freshman year, me and my current housemate Cooper Peroni, we decided we talked to Elliot after he gave us the rundown on what the trip was about. He talked in front of the team about it, and we were really interested. We didn't think we would actually end up going to Malaysia, but we ended up sticking with it. We weren't sure what we were going into. Didn't really know much about the trip until the trip came. We got details on it about a month before, but I could tell you it was the best experience that I've ever had, and I would recommend traveling, and especially if you have an opportunity to do any work with other kids across the country, I would highly recommend it. That was my favorite part of the trip, actually, teaching the kids lacrosse. I originally thought the learning about the place, which was awesome, but I thought that was going to be like the cool part, and the exploring and the traveling. But the traveling and meeting the new people and meeting people who have never seen Americans before, which was really cool, and meeting those people, it was an awesome experience.
Yeah, and everybody, a lot of people love traveling, but not a lot of people love teaching. And you are one of those rare combos that absolutely just loves both. And that's what's so great about you liking this program and wanting to one day be a teacher in another country to help kids learn English. That's giving back to the community, taking what you've learned in your life and giving back to the community. That's an awesome feeling. And I'm sure that you're very excited about it too.
Very, very excited. It was disappointing because I wasn't able to go this past year to it. because there's been a lot of the COVID issue. They pushed the year back for the ETA, for the HEA program. So I'm not. It's tough. It's tough with planning on going and making that next move in your life, and still wanting to do something like that. So my plan isn't to currently do it, but I would, any opportunity that I could take to go abroad again and even do something like that, I know could be something for mine, or it could be something to make that next step for myself as well. So I'm keeping all options on the table.
Yeah, and it's almost like the longer you wait, the sweeter it'll be once it gets here, right?
Exactly.
So let's just talk about, lacrosse again. What have you learned most from your time playing lacrosse that, whether you think is the most important or that you would want to give back to those kids in other countries that you'd want to start lacrosse programs to? What did you learn most?
I learned that you can be happy regardless of what you have, which is something that you believe it, but you don't really believe it until you see it. Like kids in the orphanage, we went to an orphanage on our third day, and kids were like they had a group of, they had basically frogs that they would eat every single day, and that was their meal, and that's what they ate every single day, and that was something that it was second nature to them. So, and there's a lot that and they didn't have running water there. There were flies everywhere in the kitchens and stuff, and you didn't really realize that, like, what's normal to you might not be normal to somebody else, and vice versa. But you take life, you don't take life for granted as much as you should, and you don't take what you have for granted.
Yeah, and that's also that leadership mentality that you said you sort of gained in high school, brought to the college level, and now want to, like I said before, give back to the community, give back to other parts of the world, other people in the world that are, not as fortunate as maybe you and I, or some other people. And so out of that leadership that you've gained, I think is that like a really good quality that you want to take into another country and sort of really teach other kids, the way of leadership and sort of hand the baton off?
Of course, it's something I truly do enjoy doing, and that's why I've starting something like that in another country, or even growing on what kids across the world has right now. It's something that I'm looking to be a part of, and I've discussed with Elliot about being a part of. It's tough with the travel restrictions worldwide right now, but even in remote parts of America, there's a lot of lacrosse hasn't even been started in a lot of areas, and there's a lot of places that the sport can grow, and a lot of places where leaders can grow the sport.
I mean, that's incredible. Hopefully you will take that leadership once you're, out of Oswego and bring it to the world and bring joy to other kids that, will want to play the sport that you play. And let's talk about the sport one last time that you play. Is still lacrosse, still in the men's lacrosse team here. And, what were the emotions that when you found out that you guys would be playing this spring, that you're going to have a senior season, and what is it that this team will accomplish this year?
I was very excited, and I can tell you, one person that may have been more excited than me was my father, getting to see me play one last time, and he comes up to all the games as well. Or he was upset that he can't come up this year because he makes a 6-hour trek to pretty much every home game that he can, which is awesome, and I respect to him on that. But yeah, so I think everybody in our team knew that we had a great team last year. And we were cut short, but I think that being cut short only grew our team chemistry and like will to play more than ever before. You can see it on our team this year. It's every single moment, every single practice. Everybody's giving it 100%, which at times you'll go throughout a season where you got teams you're running high on a win, you have a bad loss, and then teams kind of fold. You have a bad practice, teams kind of get down, people start arguing with other teammates. And that's something on this team we don't have this year, which is the most important part to keeping the team culture strong and keeping the team rolling, keeping the team winning.
Well, keeping the team winning is a good goal to have, and hopefully you guys do continue to keep winning come this shortened spring season. I want to say good luck to you guys, and thank you so much for joining me on Beneath the Surface. And to everybody watching, thank you so much for watching Beneath the Surface on WTOP 10 and 88.9 WNYO, the Laker Radio Network. So long.